and she guards chastity, right? She guards everything while the husband is out working, guarding the husband's property, the husband's house, right? Now, this prescription is not directed at a righteous husband and a righteous wife. This prescription is towards a wife who shows disloyalty. Now, what should a righteous husband do? That if the wife is being disloyal, the first step is فَائِذُهُنَّ. Be kind to her, give her admonition, warning that look, our marriage is at a turmoil right now. You know, it's not working. You don't respect. Wait, 1 second. No, 1 second. 1 second. I'm giving you the understanding, yeah? So the husband role, and this is the righteous husband, not an abusive husband. Because Allah already defined the righteous, this prescription is only for the righteous husband, not for those who will beat their wives. Okay? So the righteous husband, if they find that their wife is showing disloyalty or not respecting him, right? Then Allah prescribes the righteous husband to tell to the wife to be nice to her, give her advice, advise them. Okay, now if this doesn't work, what does that show you? The husband has to be patient. Yeah? Then the next step is abandon their beds. Now, according to the interpretation, it doesn't mean that the husband sleeps in the next room. No. You sleep in the same bed, but the husband shows his back against the wife. Now, according to the wife's psychology, what does that show you? What does that show you? Wait, hang on. I don't care about the brackets. I'm giving you the interpretation. So this second stage, abandon their beds, it doesn't mean that the husband sleeps in a different room. No. One second. It means the husband and the wife, they sleep in the same bed, but the husband turns his face away. And for wife's psyche, the wife knows, okay, the husband's not pleased with me. Okay, now that should be a wake-up call for the wife, right? Now, does it still permit to beat the wife? No, you still have to exercise patience. Then, if she doesn't understand, she's not psychologically correct, she's not realizing that she's causing a problem, this is the only time, because the husband is in a fit of rage. Now, this is how did the companions understood this? How did the Prophet understood? In the hadith, he mentioned غَيْرَ مُضَرِّ. Beat them lightly. غَيْرَ مُضَرِّ. Beat them lightly.
Good. I can
No.
Yes, please.
No. We're gonna
have long monologues.
No.
When I talk 5 seconds, you interrupt.
I'm educating you. No. 1 second.
You're talking to me. You're not.
No, I'm a Muslim. It's my responsibility to educate.
I will come back.
Right.
So I will address.
You will come back.
Yes.
You will come back. Right. Now, does the ayah end here? No. Many of the scholars, like Imam Shafi, rahimahullah, he actually recommends the husband not to go to the first step because sometimes it could backfire the husband. Right?
You can do whatever you want.
But does the verse say you have to strike the wife? No, it doesn't. It's giving you the options, giving you the chance. Right? Wait, please. No. No, that's I just want to clarify. No, the verse.
I just want to clarify.
No, the verse is
not saying no.
It's not concluded.
I want to just clarify.
It's not concluded.
I just want to clarify something.
Go on.
Come on, man. Just to clarify something. You said that there's 3 steps, right?
Yes.
But according to what I'm reading, that's in the brackets. So someone may argue that all these things could happen simultaneously.
I don't care about the brackets.
Okay, you don't care about the brackets, but let's be intelligible.
Can I
3 steps, that's an escalation.
No.
How can you say that the resolution, the third step, which is the heaviest one, is the final resolution? That is just to hit the wife with a stick.
That makes sense to me.
So it's supposed to be stronger than the 9 going to bed.
That is stronger.
Which one, the second or the third?
No, the third is stronger.
Okay,
yes, because a righteous husband, first of all, Allah doesn't say if your wife is disloyal, you strike them. No, the husband is taught to be patient. No, wait, hang on. The husband, wait, 1 second.
Yeah,
one second.
Feel, that's all.
1 second. When we go to the Bible, you will not be able to defend. Trust me. Now, easily Allah could have prescribed the husband to beat their wife. No, he didn't. He's given the husband, Allah subhanahu is teaching the husband how to deal with a wife who's not realizing that she's
Can you
causing a
educate me
problem.
on this?
Wait,
educate me on
1
this?
second.
How do you get 3 steps?
1 second. You keep
Just
cutting me
educate me.
off. I just answered you. Many of the madahib, many of the schools of thought, like Imam Shafi, he takes the opinion that the third step is not recommended because sometimes the wife may be more rebellious.
But I can give you.
Wait,
I can even
one second, right? Now, that's the first point. The Quran doesn't say it's compulsory to go through the 3 steps. It's giving the husband the chance, the option, if he wants to. The second point is that the Prophet already told us that when it's beat, you do not strike in the face, do not leave a mark on the bruise, do not show any cuts. The Prophet said, do not beat Allah's handmaiden. He said it very clearly. Do not strike on the face. Do not leave any cut. Do not leave any bruise. So he made it very clear. Now Ibn Abbas, who is the Mufassir of the Quran, who is the interpreter of the Quran, wait, what did he say? To give you a demonstration of how to beat your wife lightly, if needed, is using like a toothpick. That's it. But now you can laugh if you like, but when I bring the Bible,
at least you have been able to say what you wanted to say the best way possible. Now, let me just give context for the conversation. I was talking to a guy that is not here anymore.
I know you.
So I gave him. Let's say that the word lightly doesn't appear in the Quran. Sorry, the opposite. Let's say that the word lightly appears in the Quran. My point was, according to Surah 4, verse 34, it says that husbands are allowed to beat their wives lightly. That was my point. I'll give it to you.
Let me tell you the wisdom.
Can I finish?
Go on then.
And he admitted that. So that was my point. Okay, doesn't matter if the word lightly or not appears. So my point was, does the Quran support beating your wives?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, but even you have said that
no.
It gives you the allowance. It allows you that.
You see.
And also, you say that, sorry, you have spoken. Let me finish. So, the text is intelligible. It's very simple. There's an escalation of 3 steps. If you fear that your wife is not good to you, step 1, you do this. If she doesn't obey, step 2, there's an escalation of steps.
What's the step
3 is beating your wife.
Yes.
So it cannot be that lightly when it's the heaviest thing.
Who are you to say that? We have the Prophet already explaining to us. This is the problem. You don't know.
And you say that it was a particular thing. Remember, it was a particular thing, but it's a general thing according to the text.
Let me explain. Let me explain. Let me explain to you. Let me both. Wait. No. I can't speak 2 people at once.
All right.
Either I'm speaking to you or him.
Okay.
I can't multitask. Okay. Now. No. I need to respond to him. Now, this is the problem.
Okay, you respond to me and then he will respond.
Yes, that's fair. Now, the problem here is you don't understand Tafsir al-Quran.
Okay.
You don't understand how we interpret the Quran. So let me educate you right from the basics. Forget about this ayah right now. I'm going to give you a principle, that for future reference, when you study the Quran, make sure you follow the steps. Now, Tafsir al-Quran, the Quran, that's the first step. The best tafsir of the Quran is the Quran itself. If there are other verses that explains the other verses, then this is the best explanation of the Quran. Now, the second step, Tafsir al-Quran, the ahadith al-nabawiyah, the explanation of the Quran according to the Prophet, peace be upon him. How did the Prophet, peace be upon him, explain to us these verses? That's the second step. Now the third step, Tafsir al-Quran, the aqwal al-sahaba wa tabi'een. Then the next step is to explain the Quran according to understanding of the companions and the first 2 generations. Then the fourth step,
just like in the
Tafsir al-Quran, the Arabiya Lughiyya, right? Then the next step is to explain the Quran with the Arabic language. This is how we understand the Quran. And this is why I said right from the beginning, I don't accept translations. Because translation is word by word. I go by interpretation. So, now let's go back to chapter 4, verse 34. Right, let's go back to chapter 4, verse 34. So let's apply these exegetical principles that I've just explained. Okay, so it says, وَضْرِبُهُنَّ, beat them. Okay, now, how did the Prophet, peace be upon him, explain to us this verse? He said, غَيْرِ مُبَرِّحٍ, lightly. Ibn Abbas, had you understood this verse? He gave it a demonstration of a 2 stick. And the Prophet said very clearly, do not leave any marks, do not strike on their face. Yeah? So, whether you feel that, what's the point of beating your wife lightly or not, I don't really care. But I'll still explain to you the wisdom behind that. Have you heard crime of passion?
Crime of passion.
Crime of passion. Okay, so for example, if a wife is caught of committing adultery, okay, the husband, if he caught his wife, someone in another bed, what does it usually happen? What does the husband usually do? Attack them, crime of passion. Now, do you know that according to this country, he has some excuse? But in the Quran, there's no excuse. You see the point? So that's why when Allah revealed this ayah, is to regulate the husband's behavior. That look, Allah understands that you've been patient towards your wife, you've done all the necessary steps required, but the least you can do to show to the wife that this is serious now is attack. That's what you can do.
You know what? That's insulting my intelligence to say attack. Because when we look at the other hadith, people were actually complaining. No one complains about attack, right? You see what I'm saying? No one's complaining about it, right? It was enough.
This is where
I'm not being insincere.
Can you finish?
Thank you. I'm not being insincere.
I think it's good to listen to that what they're saying.
Thank you.
And then we can.
Thank you. I'm not being insincere. Honestly,
go ahead.
let me be honest with you, man. I'm just sharing my understanding.
Go ahead.
Like you were saying, a toothpick. But that's not what I'm getting from the text.
Yes.
Right? If people are going to...
Oh my days.
Hold on. Come on, man.
Okay,
let me explain what I'm saying. Let me explain what I'm saying, right? Something that I just want to verify. You might have said it before. I just want to verify it just to be sure, right? You say that there is 3 stages, right? But when I look at the translation, when you say don't go by translation, I'm going by it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Right? It says first, second, and third, right? It's an order of events in which things happen, right?
Yes.
But is that true to the Quran? Can it happen simultaneously? That's what I'm asking you.
No.
Could it happen, for example, could the man advise the woman at the same time not sleep with her and strike her with a thing?
Because the steps.
Okay, well, I'm just saying, because when I look at my Quran, it says here that the steps are in brackets, so I'm just trying to understand if it says first in brackets, then it's the second in brackets, and the third in brackets.
The Arabic language,
but I'm just trying to ascertain, is that something that's been inserted by people, or is that true to the Quran?
No. If one understands the Arabic language, sometimes the English doesn't do the justice. Okay. And that's why they put the brackets.
Okay, so you're saying, so I'm going to go by what you said, right, and apply these brackets, right? But the thing that I find interesting here is this, right? The thing that I find interesting here, right, that my friend said, if there are 3 stages, right, first you're advising, then you're not having intimate relations with the woman, right? The man is not having intimate...
No, you still have intimate relations at this step.
No, first he's advising, and then if they persist, he's not having intimate relations with the woman, right? And then after that, he's beating her with a toothpick.
Yes. Okay.
How does that make sense?
I just gave you the context.
Right, and then when I showed you Sunan Abu Dawud, right, in which Muhammad advises and says, you can beat the women that become involved. I'm not being selective. I'm not. One second, let me get to the point, and then I'll get to the point. Yeah. I want to help my brother. Because remember, this is the same man, Muhammad, is saying these things. He said that he can beat these women. The word beat was used. Right? Yeah. And then these women complained. Right? Not just one woman, like he said in the beginning. Multiple women were complaining about getting beaten.
You see,
right?
he doesn't understand
the point that's been made is that these women were getting beaten. If someone's getting beaten with a toothpick, he's going to complain about
No,
that.
that's not what he says. That's not what the hadith says. That's not what the hadith says. No. Don't twist it.
I'm not twisting anything.
No.
I am not twisting anything.
No.
You show me where it says toothpick then. Wait, hold on a second. You show me in this text where it says toothpick.
It doesn't.
From what? So why are you saying...
You didn't listen right from the beginning.
I think you were taking what...
No. You didn't listen to me right from the beginning.
Hold on a second.
No.
I listened to you.
No.
You were taking...
Based on an interpretation.
He
doesn't care about interpretation.
No.
Exactly. What you're doing basically... Let me hold on a second. I just want you to understand what you were saying. I want to show you that I was listening. Right? You gave all of the... You gave all of the explanations about how you verify the Quran, or how you understand the Quran. Talk about Kathir, talk about hadiths, talk about scholars, and all that sort of stuff, right? And then and the companions of Muhammad, you talked about stuff. I was listening to what you were saying, right? But what's happened here is that those things have been inserted into the Quran here. In my version, it says to strike them. Brackets like...
No, you're confused. No.
Hold on a second. Yeah. Well, hold on a
You're
second.
conflating.
Hold on a
You're
second.
actually conflating.
Let me
You're
just-
confused.
let me just-
Can I just one second? Can I say one thing if you don't mind?
Yeah, let me
If you
just-
don't mind.
I said right from the beginning.
Finish what you want to
Let me say,
say.
I'm losing my breath. Let me say one more. Let me say my last point, right?
Yeah.
So what's happened is it looks like what people have done, right? Is taking things that suits them and say, actually, we're going to make.
Correct, yes. That's what happens all the time.
That's what you did.
Listen, most people, they will take things to suit their needs.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because
So,
for me, it seems like
can I just
if someone is complaining about.
I'm gonna
Let me just
spend
say this
2
last
minutes.
point.
I'm gonna spend 2
I'll let you
minutes
finish.
on
Let me just say one
Yes,
last thing.
go
I
ahead.
want you to consider this.
Yes.
If women are complaining,
Yes.
right, about being beaten, then is that a beating that's like what you're
So if
describing?
they're complaining,
I want the Prophet
if, they're,
said- what did he say?
if they're complaining about the husband, the husband is not righteous.
Exactly.
He's not following what God.
Yes.
So he's not righteous that person.
So this is
anyway,
exactly.
can I just rewind a little bit?
Okay.
You brought a verse very controversial. As a Muslim,
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time understanding it. Because it says exactly in the Quran, idrobuhun. Idrobuhun means strike them.
Yeah.
If I have struck them, it means I go physically hit
Exactly,
them.
exactly.
Okay. So what I did, I want to know the word strike in Arabic is darb.
Okay.
If you look at the Quran, darb is used a lot of time.
Correct.
Darb means give an example.
Yeah.
الضرب مثل. Give an example.
وضرب له مثلا.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So darb is used in different contexts. So you pick the context where it says hit. And
You yourself have said that.
even darb.
You yourself
darb in
have
Arabic,
said that.
No, we don't deny it's a physical strike. We don't deny that.
Yeah.
If it's the
Don't deny it.
degree, it's the degree.
Even darb.
That's the point.
Leave it. Even darb in Arabic means leave.
Contact. Exactly.
In Arabic, darb means I need to leave.
Exactly.
So some people, I believe that darb means to leave them. If they're not listening to you, you can leave. Maybe divorce. But doesn't mean physically sit and hit them.
Exactly. That's
So
what
people, some scholars, they said, well, it might mean take a stick and hit them with it.
No, that's confirmed. That's confirmed.
See,
We
that's what I
don't
said.
deny.
When you say that,
We
to
don't
me,
deny.
it's-
We don't.
Imagine again, but again.
That was the point of the conversation. Was
conversation.
that.
So maybe-
Doesn't matter if it says lightly.
Yes.
I give it to you.
I see what you.
I give it
Okay.
to you.
It's
Then that's
physical
all.
violence.
But allowing
It's violence.
light
Yeah, of
punishment.
course. No, of course. Because light is.
I'm not saying that's what I believe. I'm saying I can concede that.
I
can
I agree with you because light is subjective.
Exactly.
Because light could be to me like this, but for you it's
Exactly. So
Exactly.
that's
Okay.
why the
Can I give you a little
Yeah,
bit
go
of
ahead.
reasoning?
Yeah, go ahead.
So
No.
you're saying that the text is complicated to understand.
No, it's not
Understand,
complicated. No.
Because Arabic
that
is a rich
it is
language.
controversial.
I explained
Arabic
to you.
is listen. Arabic is a rich
Even he
language.
said it took him a while to come to this understanding.
Yes, so
Arabic
it's not
is
that
very-
clear.
You say that. It
Yeah,
took him a while.
Not that clear.
Yeah, because if I
Someone told me that there are 19 meanings for 19 levels for the word darba.
I said at the beginning.
Good.
So
I said at the beginning, but you didn't
I don't
listen.
want to hit both.
Yeah,
I wanna hear
no,
you.
I remember.
You
Okay,
see, I want to
right.
hear both of you.
So-
I don't remember who, but someone told me. Okay, can I address what you are
yes,
saying?
of course. Yes.
So, let's say you have admitted that the text is a little bit controversial. The
Text. I said the verse controversial among
verse.
people.
Yeah.
Because we don't. Because I don't
It
know
was to
Arabic
you.
very well.
It was
Arabic
to
is
you.
very rich. Yes,
was to you.
subjectively
Okay.
at some point. Yes.
And he told me before that there are 19 meanings or 19 levels for the word darba.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Right, yeah.
So that's complicated. I can accept it. Words are complicated.
Sure.
But let's say that there's a narrative in the text. The narrative is an escalation of event.
Yes.
Of
Correct.
events.
Yeah, correct.
First step, if your wife is not righteous to you, if you feel, you don't need evidence, if you feel that, you do one thing. If she continues in her behavior, you go to step 2. We are talking about escalation.
Escalation, correct.
Now, of the 19 meanings
Yes.
the word darba encompasses,
Yes.
it must be a heavy one,
Yes.
because the narrative is leading to the heaviest possibility.
No. That's your
You
interpretation.
say that.
Imagine.
No,
You
I
say
didn't.
that the
No,
first
no.
step
Imagine-
is worse than the
One
second. You
moment.
said that before.
Imagine darb means to leave them, and leave is divorce. Divorce is very heavy.
So is that about divorce?
Yeah, it does say. Look, let me.
Oh, it could be. So you don't know what it's about.
You're not.
So you don't know what it's
No.
about, but you know that it's not about
You
what
know
I
verse
say.
25. You know verse 25.
Tell me.
Oh, You see the point?
Or you get
Right. Let me give you.
that
I'll
before.
give you the translation. The next verse says that if there's no result, if there's no resolution, then you get a hacker, an arbitrator from his side,
Correct, yes.
and an arbitrator from her side. Now,
Okay.
imagine this.
So what
Ima-
you're
wait,
saying
wait,
is that
wait,
there's possibility of
yes,
divorce.
Yeah. So exactly.
Three steps and divorce.
Exactly.
Still, you
Now,
have the
let's
third
go.
step.
Let's go by your interpretation. Yeah. Now the beat the meaning is stronger. So proper domestic. Yeah. Proper here. I mean, imagine imagine use your logic here. Yeah. If the husband beat his wife so severely there's bruise, right? Why would the wife's father arbitrate? He would straight away say, no, this is not acceptable, I'm going to get divorced. So therefore, I don't really care about your interpretation, my interpretation. How did the Prophet understood the word daraba here is ghayr mubarrih.
Okay.
Beat them lightly. This is what he says. And
You yourself.
And Ibn Abbas, he gave a demonstration. What does it mean when he said ghayr mubarrih? Which is the tap. That's it. That's all you can do. You can't go beyond that. This is why I explained to you the exegetical principles right from the beginning, because I don't blame you. Because understand the Quran, many non-Muslims do not know how to understand the Quran properly. I understand that. But after I explained to you the exegetical principles, I've given you the evidence that the Prophet said Hayda Mubarak, and I gave you the explanation of Ibn Abbas, who was the interpreter of the Quran, that it means using it as siwak. Then what's the dispute? Now, whether you think it's effective or not, I don't really care. That's the point. Now, I'm still going to give you a wisdom why Allah permitted the husband to reach it. You know why? Crime of passion. Imagine the husband finds his wife sleeping with another guy. What would happen to the husband? Not only beat, he would kill her. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's reprimanding the husband. Okay, if you are in the fit of rage, the least you can do is nothing else. Very, very simple. Now the hadith that you got. Now I want to just
talk about fine.
I want to just do his hadith.
Okay.
I want to just do this hadith. This hadith is very explicit that the Prophet said they're not the best husbands among you. He's referring to those who are not righteous husbands.
Okay.
He's referring to the abusive husband. But the ayah chapter 4 verse 34, this three-step, it doesn't apply to abusive husband. It applies to a righteous husband who still does his duty. He supports his wife morally, financially, psychologically, but the wife has not been righteous. You see, so the two cases are separate. Your hadith has got nothing to do with chapter 4 verse 34. It's a separate case.
Like, just to make it clear, the reason why I brought the hadith goes back to when you said it was one woman making a complaint.
I understand.
That's why I brought up, because there was multiple
Fair
women
enough.
in this hadith making a complaint, and within this hadith, Muhammad.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair
is it
enough.
Raihan?
Yes, Raihan. Yeah, Jim.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
nice one.
We got it here. Now,
Yeah.
can I speak about the Bible for 1 second?
That's
In the Bible, in the Gospel of Matthew,
yeah.
according to Christianity, can a woman file for divorce?
To my knowledge, no.
Yes, there is. There's a condition. What's the condition of the Christian wife for divorce? On the grounds of the husband showing infidelity, adultery. Now, let's say, for example, I'm not sure. I mean, this is it is. It's in the Gospel of Matthew.
On the women's side as well.
Now, let's just say.
I thought it was only on the man's side.
Now, in Islam,
Hold on a
It doesn't talk about which gender. It talks about men. But okay, let's go with your case.
yeah? Okay. Now, in the Quran and in Islam, a wife can file for divorce. There's actually a full chapter called Surah Talaq, Surah 65, divorce. Okay. But according to the Bible and according to Christianity, can a Christian wife file for divorce if the husband's been abusive and he didn't commit adultery?
I can tell you that, for example, according I think to 1 Peter or 2 Peter 3, it says that because the Bible doesn't address the topic of husbands can beat their wives, yes or not. Because according to one of Peter's letters, if the husband talks bad and kindly to his wife, God won't listen to the husband's prayer. So, and in the context, what he's saying is that there's a spiritual divorce between God and the husband when the husband doesn't speak kindly to the wife. So it doesn't even go to beating. Just by
No, I
talking.
never mentioned about beating.
But I'm just talking to you like abuse. You said abuse.
Abuse could be emotional abuse, psychological abuse, physical abuse.
But the Bible just addresses verbal abuse.
Okay, let's say that
verbal
okay.
abuse.
Wait, hang on. So let's say the Christian husband.
Can I say one thing before I leave? Honestly, wallah. So our prophet is our best example.
Yes.
So we went to him, we asked him, does he means hit a woman? What did he say? No.
No.
So we all agree that
No,
means
no,
that.
they've understood.
Yes. No.
Now we're going to the Bible.
Oh, fantastic.
Alhamdulillah.
Anyway,
Now, according so the point is that according to Christianity and according to the words of Jesus, he says that only on the grounds of adultery of the husband, the wife can only get divorced. So if the Christian husband has been abusive towards his wife, but he's not committing adultery, can the wife fight for divorce? Yes or no?
Can you repeat the question?
Okay. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus says that a woman cannot fight for divorce unless the husband committed adultery. If the husband has not committed adultery, but he's been abusive towards his wife, beaten her up, womanizer, can the woman fight for divorce?
Can I answer that question?
Sure. And that's very
what's the
complicated.
context? Do you know the context?
Yeah, it's
of
in
that?
Matthew chapter 5.
It's in Matthew, but that's not the context. The
Okay,
context,
you give me the context.
Yeah, okay. So in Israel, there were two schools of teaching about divorce. The Hamai school and the Gamaliel school. So one says that a husband could divorce his wife, even if the wife cooked badly. So a husband could go to a rabbi or to the Sanhedrin saying, my wife doesn't cook well, I want to divorce, and he was allowed. Then there was another school saying different things.
What did they say?
The point, I don't remember exactly,
Okay,
but it was Gamaliel and Hamai, I think.
Okay.
Two schools. Then Jesus addresses that context, these two schools. And what Jesus says is that you don't have you can't divorce your wife because you want.
No.
So it's the context of adultery.
No. I'm talking about that the wife is not allowed to fight for divorce unless the husband commits adultery. So there's a condition. She's not allowed to fight for divorce unless the husband is caught for committing adultery.
Yeah,
so my question is, wait, hang on. My question is, if the husband is abusive towards his wife, beating her up, domestic violence towards the wife, and he's not committing adultery, can the wife get divorced according to the sayings of Jesus? Yes or no?
Okay. The text is assuming divorce. You know why? Because when you read the context assumes divorce. And I'm trying to explain the context. The context is someone saying that Moses God allowed divorce even in the Old Testament. What Jesus is saying is that marriage was never meant for divorce. Was never meant for divorce. But the law of divorce is there. Because of sin, because of abuse, as you say, God allowed people, even in the law of Moses.
But does God allow the wife who's been abused by the husband, but he's not committed adultery, does God allow the wife for divorce? Yes or no?
It talks about the concept of
Yes or no?
adultery.
Yes or no?
Show me then that it's just about one gender, not the other. Yeah, okay, sorry.
Can I answer you, Raihan, from my opinion?
I don't want your opinion.
I'm going to give you my opinion.
I want the teachings of Christianity.
I'm going to do Let me explain it. What you're mentioning about marriage needs to be understood properly, because from my understanding, to my knowledge, the woman is not allowed to initiate. Raihan, can I get your attention?
Okay, now chapter 5 verse 31, Matthew.
Can I get your attention?
It has been said, Jesus says it has been said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you, Jesus said, but I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except, here's the condition, the husband is not allowed to file divorce to his wife except for sexual immorality. So if the wife is, except for sexual immorality, makes her the victim of adultery. And anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. So we have two problems. So a divorce, so no one is allowed to get married to a divorced woman.
I'm gonna say something to you in a second. So according to Jesus, marrying a divorced woman is adultery. That's exactly what Muhammad taught.
But what has the divorced woman done?
That's exactly
no,
what
give me evidence. Give me evidence.
Okay.
Give me evidence. We're going to stick to the Bible here. Let me read it again.
I'll give you evidence. Let me give you evidence first.
In the meantime,
then Muhammad.
Then you bring
hold on a second. No, I know it off by heart.
We're not going to shift.
Then Muhammad, not going to shift. I'll come back to it.
Jesus says it has been said.
You just said give me the evidence. That guy was.
I know. So why do you bring evidence? I'm going to read it.
I'm telling you now. I'll tell you now. You know the story.
No problem.
Did not Muhammad marry his adopted son's ex-wife?
What's that got to do with not allowing to get?
So but if you look at Jesus,
he was divorced.
Yeah, but you're laughing. He's laughing.
Hang on.
Yeah, but
Hang on. Alright, let me see if you know. Wait, hang on. Zainab bin Jahsh, right? Wasn't she divorced? So the Prophet married to a divorced woman.
Did you hear my argument? Did you hear what you just read? What Jesus said? Anyone who marries a divorced woman is committing adultery. He makes her an adulterer because she's divorced.
So
Muhammad teaches that.
Wait. So if no, he didn't.
He didn't.
Zainab bin Jahsh. No, Zainab bin Jahsh. Zainab bin Jahsh.
Matthew.
Wait, Zainab bin Jahsh got married with Zayn. Yeah. Now, wait 1 second. Wait. Zainab bin Jahsh is a divorced woman, and the Prophet married. So therefore, it's refuted.
No, that's not refuted. Let me explain.
No.
It's not refuted. It's not refuted.
It's
not refuted. Wait,
now I'm going to read it again. Jesus says in Matthew. I'm not going to let you go.
No.
Matthew chapter 5 verse 31.
Stay on this. I'm not running away.
Okay, go on.
I'm not running away.
Go on.
Can you just confirm for me,
yes,
that Muhammad married his adopted son's ex-wife?
An adopted son, and she was divorced.
Yes.
That's exactly what I'm trying to prove. Is she was divorced, right? He married a divorced woman.
So
according to Jesus Christ, that's wrong.
No, I don't care. We don't believe in that. That's the point, Tim. That's according to you. Now.
Hold on.
Wait.
I know that, but you say you confirm the gospel in the Torah.
Why should I? Wait.
Can I? Because I have to leave soon, so I want to address what you said.
Okay, yes, we say anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. Wait, it has been said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce.
19.
Are you listening? Yeah, chapter 5 verse 31, Matthew. It has been said, anyone who divorces his wife must give her a certificate of divorce. But I tell you that anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, makes her the victim of adultery. And anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Now I have
anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery.
That's a problem.
That's literally what Muhammad did.
Okay, so
that's literally. I just explained that.
No, you refuted. Now,
how is that? Wait, no. Don't you say I was refuted? I literally explained to you.
Calm down, Tim.
I literally explained to you.
You see, the moment I bring up the Bible, you want to bring up the Quran. You want to bring up the hadith.
Okay, what I don't understand is you're judging the Prophet
based on the teachings of Christ. Yeah.
You don't conform to your rules.
So why do you call Christ the Messiah then?
I don't care. I don't care about your Bible. I'm just saying I have a problem with this verse.
Okay.
Now, would you allow me to explain why I have a problem with this verse? Okay. So, Jesus says anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. If a woman got divorced because her husband committed adultery and she was faithful towards her husband, what is the fault of the divorced woman? How has she committed adultery?
Applying Islamic logic.
Answer the question. How has she committed adultery? She got divorced because her husband committed adultery, and yet anyone married a divorced woman commits adultery. What has the divorced woman done?
Let me answer this.
No. I want him to answer.
No, I'm going to answer it.
Because he answer it. No, Tim.
I'm going to answer it. Raihan, forget the hadith for a second. Let me answer.
No. Answer the question.
Raihan, I'm answering.
No, but I want him. It says anyone who marries a divorced woman.
I don't want this to break down.
No, Tim.
I don't want this to break down. Let me answer this.
I know you're smirking. I know.
I'm not.
Now, anyone. No. I know.
Dude,
I've got experience. I've been coming here for 3 years. Anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Now, can you give me a chance to tell me why I have a problem with this verse?
Go on.
Can you?
Yeah, I'm not.
You had the problem with chapter 4 verse 24.
Smirking. Go ahead.
Right. Now, anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. If a woman got divorced because her husband was caught committing adultery and she was faithful towards her husband, and if she wants to get married again, why is she committing adultery?
A divorced woman So first of all, you addressed something before.
No, I want
why
the
he's
second part,
talking
then we
about
go to the
gender?
first part.
Why he's talking about gender?
Yes.
Verse 3 says, some Pharisees approached him, Jesus, to test him. They asked, it is lawful for a man to divorce his wife on any grounds. That's the question.
Yeah, but I'm talking about chapter 5, verse 31.
This is the question.
What has the divorced woman done?
Is it lawful
What has she
for a
done?
man? Is it lawful for a man to divorce his wife on any grounds? So they are asking. The question is already conflated.
But Jesus corrects you. Jesus refines it. He amends it. That's the point. You want to go back to what the Mosaic says.
The question
but Jesus is
asked
refining
by
the Mosaic.
men. By men. He's not
Doesn't
limiting.
matter. My point is,
limiting.
okay, chapter 5, verse 32, Matthew. Anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Now, I want you to answer the question because you've got to be fair that I answered all of your questions regarding the chapter 4, verse 34. So, do the courtesy back of answering my question. Now, anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Okay, if a woman got divorced on the grounds that her husband committed adultery, but the wife has been faithful towards him, and she got divorced and she wants to remarry to another guy, why is she committing adultery? How's that fair?
Can I respond to that? According to that text that you were reading, right, as far as I understand it, the woman doesn't have grounds to divorce her husband if he's being sexually immoral. So the premise of your question the premise of your question is wrong. The man has the right, from how I understand, I'm making it very
Why
clear.
does the husband have the right?
I'm making it clear. I'm making it clear. This is from my perspective, right? That the man, remember what you said before, how you said that it's addressed to men in this particular text, right? That's how I understand it,
yes.
right? So your question, if it's understood in the way that I understand it, doesn't make sense to me.
So you're not answering my question. You're not answering my question. If a man marries a divorced woman, he commits adultery.
Because that woman belongs to another man.
No. But
that woman belongs to another man.
No, but if wait, hang on. No. He doesn't say that. It says divorced woman, which means she's no longer married. The point is here, is saying that anyone who marries...
Islamic...
No, I'm going by your Bible. Anyone who marries, and I'm not going to let you off the hook. You're going to have to answer the question.
You're not letting me off the hook, trust me,
anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Now,
Why?
a divorced woman... Why? Let me... I have a problem with this verse. Because if a woman got divorced from a previous marriage because she was loyal towards her husband, and the husband's caught adultery, right? Why is she committing adultery for remarrying?
I see what you're saying.
What's the fault of the divorced woman? What's her fault?
Well, from how I can understand it,
How's
right?
that just?
How I
tell
can...
you, whoever divorces his wife except for sexual immorality and marries another commits adultery.
Why?
The one who commits adultery is the one.
Right.
Is the one who divorces.
But why
Not the
can't you
victim.
why can't a woman get remarried?
So it's 19 verse 9. And I tell you, whoever divorces his wife, he's talking about men, except for sexual immorality, and marries another.
So therefore, it justifies a husband to beat his wife.
What?
That means the woman can't file for divorce.
See, you're looking...
That's the point.
What
He's assuming divorce because he's saying that
No. That's another problem I
I see where he's going.
Yes.
In our scriptures, it doesn't teach husbands to be their wives.
I'm not saying that. Did I say that?
Hold on a
Did I say
second.
that?
Hold on a second, because
It doesn't prohibit either.
No. This is where you're... Come on, bro. Like, it doesn't teach husbands... What the scriptures... Hold on a second.
When he said strike her, doesn't mean strike her, hit her. He's mean strike
What you're trying to
the house.
get is to try and use this
Come out
text
of
to
the house.
teach that it's
First,
okay for
you
men
come out of the room, and then the second thing, you come out of the house completely.
I understood you.
You get it? The same word, if you see it, check it in the Quran, it's mean like God strike an example. He used the same word, strike an example.
Sexual immorality. And then there's divorce.
Leave your room, and then come out of the house completely.
Can the wife file for divorce?
Yeah, because it states that
If
in the law of Moses...
What it says only on the grounds of sexual immorality, he has to be divorced. If he doesn't commit sexual immorality, he can't divorce his wife.
the question is asked by men, just by men.
No,
and
no, no,
Jesus
no.
uses that
No, he says
gender.
a man doesn't have the right to divorce his wife unless on the grounds of sexual immorality. So that means if he doesn't commit sexual immorality, then he's not allowed to divorce the wife. So that means he can beat her up, and the wife doesn't
And
have
I
the right.
already told you what happens, and I already told you what happens in 2 Peter. That when a husband, I think it's 1st or 2 Peter, chapter 3. That when
so the gospel's not a forgery then?
Yes.
So you're saying that the gospel's not a forgery?
Who is her
Because you
would
never
rather-
said this was a forgery.
you would
Wait, hold on
rather
a second. You never said that this was a forgery.
Okay.
But now we say 2 Peter, you say forgery.
Okay, fair
so
enough.
are you saying,
Fair enough.
no wait, hold on a second. Are you saying that this is not a forgery? Are you saying that it's a valid text?
I believe the whole Bible.
So why are you then singling out
All right,
2 Peter?
I'll take that back.
Thank you.
Now, Peter. Why does Peter have the authority to interpret when you have the words of Jesus?
because Jesus
Remember,
gave
he said,
authority
remember
to
what he
Peter.
said about companionship?
And where's your evidence?
Yeah, I know.
What he said about
You don't care about interpretation.
Where's your evidence?
Wasn't
your
Peter
evidence?
his companion?
Because you have in the gospel, so you are using the gospel
Raihan,
of
you're
Matthew,
not being honest,
but in
man.
those very gospels,
You opened
Jesus
Matthew?
gave authority. Sorry?
Who opened Matthew?
So you want to deflect?
It's not
You
in
want
Mark,
to
Bible,
Raihan,
it's in Matthew.
you said that according to Islam,
No, I'm
right?
just
You go by the
scrutinizing.
Kathir,
You have
the
used
scholars,
Matthew.
the scholars, the companions of
Why?
Muhammad.
You have the words of Jesus. You have the same gospel. You have the words of Jesus, which is very explicit that anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Why? I mean, this is like this is unfair on the divorced woman. Why has she done wrong? And what has the husband done wrong for getting married to a divorced woman? What's wrong with that?
According to the teachings of Jesus.
No. I want you to please answer the question.
Okay, yeah.
Why is it morally wrong for a husband to remarry a divorced woman?
You are
And what-
assuming
Yes.
that according to Matthew, then husbands can beat their wives and wives have
That's
no
what I
right
mean. That's
to
what I mean.
divorce.
Yes.
What I'm telling you is that Peter addresses that a husband who talks harshly to his wife.
You have the words of Jesus here. Why are you going to Peter?
You don't listen to interpretations
Ah.
to people.
Now you understand,
asking me-
isn't it?
Yeah, but you are saying
Okay.
you are saying that
Okay.
Peter is not a valid source for you when I'm telling you that
Is
in
it
that,
because the
can I
word
finish?
Jesus?
Can I
Go,
finish?
carry on.
Yeah. But when you go to the end of the Gospel of Matthew,
Yes.
Jesus says to Peter
Yes.
and to his disciples, you have I've been given authority in heaven and on earth, and now you can go and make disciples.
Right.
And also in the Gospel of John says that you don't know everything.
So what's Peter's explanation
After
for this,
Pentecost,
for this part?
that even if the husband, so are you talking about the letter that I say?
No. How did Peter understood what Jesus says? Anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery.
Well, for example, when you go to the letter that I told you, Peter says that even if you speak harshly, if husbands speak harshly to their wives, God won't listen
No,
to
it's
the
about
husband's
divorce.
prayers.
No, it's about divorce.
Yeah. Well, but I'm talking
You're
about
talking about
principles.
someone is married.
I'm
I'm
talking
saying
about
remarried to a
principles.
divorced woman.
No. Your question is that God is happy with husbands that beat wives
No.
according to your interpretation of Christianity.
How
they
did
can't.
no? Jesus says anyone who marries a divorced woman. If I get married to according to this, if I get married to a divorced woman,
Yes.
I committed adultery.
Yes. So for you, adultery is by marrying the
That's
wrong
according
person.
to Jesus. If I get married to a divorced woman, and the divorced woman wants to remarry to someone else, why am I not allowed to get married to a divorced woman?
What's the question in verse 3
Verse 3 of what?
of Matthew 19?
But this is Matthew 5.
Oh, you said Matthew 5.
Okay, I
This
was
is
talking
Matthew
about
5.
19.
This is
Yeah,
the
I was
Sermon on the Mount.
okay.
I don't know what you're
That's
talking
why
about.
okay.
Okay.
But anyway, there's
wait,
always
no.
valid as well.
Someone's running
I'm asking
away,
you, what is
no one's running away,
what is
don't
morally
worry about
wrong
it.
for me to get married to a divorced woman,
Sorry,
and
give me your
why have I committed
sorry,
adultery?
give me your reference, please, because I was in
Matthew chapter 5, verse 31 to 32.
Okay, because I was in Matthew 19.
Oh, hello. How are you? Yeah, nice to see you.
We the Christians.
Yeah, we'll go soon. 5 minutes. I still want the answer. What is wrong with me getting married to a divorced woman, and why have I committed adultery, and why does Jesus have a problem with divorced women? In Islam,
Okay,
You have to marry
heard-
first.
A divorced woman is allowed to get married.
That it was
A husband is
said,
allowed,
commit
a
adultery,
man is
but I
allowed to
tell
get
you,
married to a
everyone
divorced
who
woman.
looks
No,
at a woman,
who gets
last
divorced or
already committed
widow,
adultery.
she has to get married first,
Correct.
then the virgin.
Yeah.
You know, because she may go straight. You know, yeah.
It also says whoever divorces his wife must give her a written notice of divorce.
Yes.
But I tell you, everyone who divorces his wife, except in a case of sexual immorality, causes her to commit adultery.
Good.
And whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery.
Good. So I have two problems with this. So a husband is not allowed to get married. A husband is not allowed to divorce his wife unless on the grounds of sexual immorality. My first problem is this: if that husband has not committed adultery, but he's abusing his wife, can the wife get divorced?
Can I answer that? I'll be honest with you. I would say no. But let me explain something to you.
Wow.
Let me explain
Did
something.
you hear that? Did you hear that?
Let me explain
Do you
something
agree
to
with
you.
it? Do you agree with it?
Let me explain
Not
something.
exactly, but I respect
let me
it.
explain something to you. Like I said, this is my opinion. It's not representative of the church.
Okay.
Right? Let me just explain to you. You're assuming the setting of the married couple that they're going to be living in the same house while the abuse is going on. If a husband's abusing their wife and they're under Christianity, then the husband himself is going to go through a disciplinary procedure.
Where is
No,
that?
Well, we can show you. I can show you in scripture.
No, only on the grounds of sexual immorality.
Would you-
If he commits adultery,
Let me,
Yeah.
dude. I'm giving you the answers,
Go on,
man.
go on.
Like, let me just
Go on.
explain it, right? If a husband is mistreating his wife, then he's not going according to the teachings of Christ, right? Because we're meant to love our wives as ourselves, right? Also, he says that Jesus Christ teaches that the husband and the wife become one flesh, and
what if the husband is not nice?
if he's not nice,
he's not committing adultery.
But if the husband is abusing the woman,
Yes.
right, it doesn't necessarily mean that the woman has to remain in that household.
me a-
And well, why would you assume that?
No.
Why would you assume that?
Because it gives you the allowance.
Yeah.
Because it
Why
gives you-
can't the woman?
No, it gives you the
hold on a
permission.
second. Why can't the
That-
woman?
no, the
Wait, hold on a
husband-
second.
the husband
Why
cannot-
can't the woman report her husband to the
The
police?
husband cannot.
For domestic
Wait, hang
violence.
on.
Wait, Raihan.
Go on.
You're making a point. You're using this point,
Yes.
right, about divorce and stuff. Hold on.
Okay, go on.
To try to say that if a woman's being beaten
Yes.
badly in her marriage, right, by her husband, she's just stuck there. She just has to walk into an abusive home every single day and be beaten.
That's why it implies
No,
you
it
can.
doesn't imply
Okay,
that.
let me tell you why. Let me
tell you why it doesn't imply that.
You just
Because-
said no. You just said
No,
said
I said about the divorce. It doesn't necessarily mean that he stays.
No.
Listen,
No.
Raihan,
If that- wait, hang
let me
on.
finish my point. Just listen to my point, right? Because you've gone very, very far with this little bit of text.
Okay, I'll explain.
Right? You're assuming that this woman, right, who I would say can't get divorced, right, has to remain in that circumstance where she's subject to
unless
abuse.
she commits adultery.
No.
Yes, that's what it
No,
says.
no, it
Can you read
doesn't say that.
Can you
No,
read
it
again?
doesn't.
Can you read it
Why
again?
do you think?
Can
What
you
makes
please
you
read it
believe?
again? Can you read it again?
Dude,
free to go.
I'm not. I'm saying.
Can you read it
Listen
again?
to what I'm saying. Let me explain myself. It's
I'm not
so
letting it carry on
difficult.
if you're butchering the words of Jesus.
I'm not. Don't you dare say that.
Then
Don't you
do
dare
justice
say that.
then.
Don't you dare
All right,
say
I'm
that.
gonna read-
Because
all right.
no. Seriously.
No. If no. The only time the husband can file divorce to the
I'm
wife
not talking
if
about
she's
divorce.
guilty of immorality.
Dude, I'm
if
not
she's guilty of adultery.
Raihan, I'm
now,
not
if she's
talking
been,
about
no,
divorce.
wait.
I'm not talking about divorce. 1 second.
No, I am talking about divorce.
No. Yeah, but I'm making a point, right? You're talking about abuse, right? And I'm saying that a woman who's been abused by her husband doesn't have to stay in the same household.
Where's she gonna go?
You can. I'll tell you why. Because Jesus says that the husband is not allowed to file for divorce unless.
Exactly.
Wait. One second. You can still be married and separate.
Raihan,
divorce was
But it says
allowed.
divorce.
Raihan,
It says divorce.
jump into conclusions.
I agree. Now,
And they
what
become one flesh.
Now, wait. So, if the husband does not have the right to divorce his wife unless she committed adultery. Now, I'm giving you a scenario which is very realistic today. We know that domestic violence happens, right? That particularly there are women who are being beaten up by the husband. But she cannot file for divorce and she cannot get out of that abusive marriage unless she commits adultery.
Then explain that.
Now you tell me, how's that just?
So, but I'm going to compare now the morals of Islam.
No,
and Christianity according to that. And I'm going to use your question.
No, you're going to have
your
to stand on
question.
this leg.
So
no, I'm asking you again.
I'm trying to
Don't
stand
bring
on
Islam.
it.
I didn't bring Christianity when I.
Raihan, I'm being fair.
No.
Why you cutting me off?
What's your name? What's your
killing
name?
disbelievers.
You don't want me to respond.
Yeah?
You don't have to tell me your real name. I just
The boys of
whatever I
Islam.
want to read.
Right, what's your name?
Raihan, we'll be fair.
That's all you got. Because
He knows
everything.
Tim, he knows what I'm talking about.
That's all you
I don't think you
and
do.
you've got nothing.
Dude,
Wait, no. Jesus said, I'm going to read. No, I want him to answer. Can you
Okay,
make something?
all right,
Then you
go
can
ahead.
Right, because you still haven't given me the answer.
I'm giving you the answer.
Now, Jesus says that the husband is not allowed to file for divorce unless she is guilty of sexual immorality. Now, if a wife is in an abusive marriage, that he is beating her up, he's not giving her her rights, right? Unless she commits adultery, can she get out of that marriage, yes or no?
So what you want to do is a kind of maze to find that in a way God hasn't provided
Answer
us.
the question.
Yeah. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing.
The only way.
Heard you,
You're not
man.
That's what I'm doing.
Dude,
That's what I'm doing.
Let him answer.
That's what I'm doing.
You may not like the answer, but let him answer.
That's what I'm doing. So you're assuming in a way that in Christianity abusive husbands are allowed to stay in
It doesn't allow.
marriage,
Dude,
and there's
let
no
him, let him,
solution
let him,
for
let him.
them.
We heard you.
Okay?
Come on, man.
So
Wow.
when you go to one of Peter's letters, I think it's 2 Peter 3 verse 15. So it says, you see the moral of God. So you see what God thinks, and that's what God
What's that got to
entrusted.
do with divorce?
Yes,
That's what
so
nothing
that's
with
the
divorce.
moral. That's the moral of
No,
God.
Peter is
That's
saying
the moral
be
of God.
kind
That's what
towards your
God-
wife, blah blah blah. No, Jesus is prescribing about a divorce. When can divorce happen? He says that a husband is not allowed to divorce his wife unless she commits adultery. Now, if an abusive wife, the only way that she can get out of the abusive marriage is she commits adultery. That's the only time that she can get out of the marriage.
Yeah, but you haven't.
How's that fair?
You haven't listened to the
how's that fair?
context.
No, but then
How's
she
that
can't
fair?
even get remarried. That's the thing.
No,
Right,
not about remarriage. That's another thing.
Let me explain.
No,
Let me explain.
no. What I've understood.
I've understood your point. Let me explain because I'm raising my voice to try and get.
But I want him
message
to respond.
across. But he needs to respond and you're cutting him.
No.
You wanna respond?
He's
Okay,
not-
let him.
want
Okay,
my
let him
response?
No,
respond.
let me make my
Let him
claim very
respond.
clearly. Jesus says a man doesn't have the right to divorce his wife unless she committed sexual immorality. Now, if there is a scenario where a wife is experiencing domestic violence from her husband, she is now trapped. She's thinking the only way that I can get my husband to divorce me and I need to get out of this abusive marriage is committing sexual immorality.
Can I address the answer?
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And if it's a bit long, because I will tackle it from different angles.
Okay, go on.
Yeah?
Go on.
I'll go on. So, first of all, the ontological moral of God in regards to human relationships. 2 Peter, I think it's 2 Peter 3:15, but it's in one of Peter's letters. If the husband, so the Bible doesn't address even domestic violence, because according to Peter, if the husband speaks harshly to his wife, God won't listen the husband's prayer, which means that there's a kind of divorce between God and the husband, which is very big. That's the moral. That's the moral of God. That's how God sees marriage. So it's not even going to domestic violence. It's just words. That's what God says. That's what Peter says. If you speak harshly to your wife, God won't listen to your prayers. So you don't even have to go to beating wife. Yeah. Now when you go to Matthew, whether you talk about Matthew 5 or Matthew 19, it is the same author. So the author encompasses and englobes and bears in mind that what happens in chapter 5 makes sense also in accordance to chapter 19. It's the same author. So chapter 5 wasn't written by one guy, chapter 19 was written by another guy. It was the same author. The author knows exactly the topic. When you go to chapter 19, Yeah. When you go to chapter 19, the question is asked by Pharisees. The Pharisees were men, and they asked him, if a man does this and that, Jesus addresses the answer according to the gender that asks the question. Also, you can't deny that, oh, it's impossible to divorce. No, Jesus is saying, you were given freedom to divorce according to the law of Moses because of your sin. But what he's stating is that the value of marriage, the ideal of marriage is this: husband, wife, forever.
Yes.
Just adultery is the only thing that breaks and there's no solution.
Okay.
But it's not saying that if your husband beats...
I've read 1 Peter 3. You missed the part where it says, wives, in the same way, submit yourselves to your own husbands. So that's the first prescription. The first prescription was given to the wife to submit to the husband. Then the part you say, husband, in the same way, be considerate as you live with your wives, and treat them with respect as the weaker partner, and as heirs with you of the gracious gift of life, so that nothing will hinder your prayers. Now, let's say, hypothetically speaking, the wife has submitted to her husband. She's done her duty. Okay? Yeah? Wait. Let's say, for example, let's say the husband. Let me try and get it right. Let me try and get the right word. Yeah. So there's a condition. There's a condition that the wife has to submit to the husband, and the husband has to be kind towards the wife. But what has that got to do with the permission or only circumstances to get divorced? Because Jesus says very clearly, a man does not have the right to file his wife for divorce unless she commits adultery. So that's not her way of submitting to her husband, right?
No, but you are forgetting what I said.
Yes.
So the question is addressed by Pharisees, men.
Yes.
Men. It's not saying this is the only way when men do certain things to their wives.
But Jesus puts a condition to it. Unless she commits sexual immorality.
Yeah, but he's saying
So
that
why doesn't he say
adultery, in general terms, whoever commits adultery.
Yeah.
It's not that adultery is something that is recognized as adultery when the husband does it to the wife.
Yeah. I understand.
The other way, the other way as well.
But still, abusive husband can still, how can I say it? If the wife hasn't committed adultery and he's abusing his wife, can she file for divorce? Yes or no? You're giving me morals. You're giving me. There's a difference between morality and law. I'm talking about the law. The law says that a man doesn't have the right to divorce his wife unless she committed adultery. Now you gave me Peter. You gave me Peter, where you're talking about the duty of the husband. But the duty of the husband has got nothing to do with the condition that Jesus put on. Even if she's been good towards her husband, even if he's been kind towards her, it's the law. That's the point. It's the law. The only way that the wife can get divorced from the husband is she commits adultery herself. You're confusing between the law and no, it's between the law and conduct. There's a difference. I'm not talking about the conduct. I'm talking about the law. According to Jesus, what does the law state on the grounds that he can file for divorce? Only if his wife commits adultery. That's to do with the law, not the conduct. First Peter is to do with the conduct. I'm not talking about the conduct. I've given that, but I'm talking about the law.
Okay. You give me the conduct.
Wait. What does it mean?
Not the law.
I'm talking about the law. I'm not talking about the conduct. Yes. Yeah, I'm talking about the law, not the conduct. Do you know the difference?
Yeah. So one thing is the civil law, the actions one person can do or take. The other is the moral, is the standard, or how you can behave.
No.
The law is also the same.
Jesus is prescribing a law. Jesus is prescribing a law about divorce. When you quote from 1 Peter, you're talking about the conduct of the husband towards the wife. But Jesus is not talking about the conduct of the husband. He's talking about at what circumstances can a husband divorce his wife. And he can only divorce his wife on the basis she commits sexual immorality. So if she doesn't want to be with her husband, the only way that he can get her divorced is if she commits adultery. That's the only way that she can get divorced.
Yeah, but that was given according to a law and to a country where they were given laws for divorce.
So why is she forced to commit adultery just to get out of the marriage?
She's not forced. But she's
No,
not
no, Jesus put the condition.
Well, this is the problem. Can I just jump in?
Yeah,
She's
sorry.
not forced to commit adultery. That's the problem with your argumentation.
No,
Hold on. Can I explain?
Where did I say
You just said
Christianity allows divorce? Allows adultery. I
You
never
just said
that.
she's forced to commit adultery to get a divorce.
Why is that fair? Is that
I'm
fair
not
on her?
saying that your argument's wrong. That's
Why?
what
Why
I'm
is that
trying to
wrong?
say,
Go on.
right? You have to look at the circumstances, right? You've got a Christian man, right? A Christian man and a Christian woman. So these are people that are living by Christian principles, or should.
No.
Let me argue, man.
I'm not talking about conduct.
Let
I'm
me
talking about the
argue.
law.
Let me argue.
I'm talking about
Let
the
me
law.
argue.
I'm
Let
not
me
talking about
argue.
the conduct.
Let me argue my point, please. I just want to say what I need to say, right? You've got a Christian man and a woman, right? They're married together, right? You're claiming that this Christian man, if he's abusing her, the only way that she can get out of the marriage is by committing adultery.
Yes.
Now, I want to talk about that situation where the man is actually abusing her. What options does she have while she's being
Committing adultery.
No, she doesn't.
Yes, that's
No,
what
she
Jesus
doesn't.
says.
Listen to
That's
what
what Jesus says.
Dude, listen to what I'm saying, right? If the woman is in a marriage where the man is abusing her, does that mean that she's?
How can she get out of marriage?
I'm not saying that she's going to get out the marriage.
How?
Listen to my argument, dude. Just listen to me for a second.
I'm not talking about the conduct. I'm talking about the law. What does the law
Listen
say?
to what I'm saying first, right? I'm not saying that she can get out the marriage. That's what I'm saying. He might not have the same view as me, respectfully.
So how can she get
But
out of marriage?
let me just listen to me. You're focused on getting out of marriage because you're looking at it from an Islamic perspective.
No, did I quote from the Quran and Sunnah?
No,
I quoted from the Bible. What are you talking about?
You're talking about getting out of marriage.
No, I'm not accepting that.
Let me make my point. You're not letting me make my point.
He's talking about the duty of the
Let me make
husband,
my
the duty of the
point.
wife. Granted. But what does the law say?
Let me make my
He
point.
cannot
Dude,
divorce his wife
let me-
unless you commit adultery.
Yeah, but you're talking about
So if she wants to get out of divorce, the only way she can get out of divorce is she commits adultery.
Why does she want to get divorced?
Because she doesn't want to be married with him anymore. She doesn't want to get married anymore. Why? That's her decision.
Why does she want to
Why?
get divorced?
Because it's not working anymore.
Why is it not?
Wait, hang on. Am I
Why
a
it's not
counselor?
working anymore?
Am I a marriage counselor?
Why is it? Well, you're talking about marriage now.
Are you talking about marriage counselor?
So what you're trying. Raihan, let me just make
Let me
what I'm trying to say.
Right, but if she, but can that? Oh, okay, good. I'll answer your question. If a Christian is, wait, hang on. If there's an abusive husband towards his wife, but can she still get divorced? Can she still get divorced without committing adultery?
As a Christian, I would say yes. I'm not representing all of them.
Where's your evidence?
However,
Where's your evidence?
Where's your evidence? Based on what Tim was saying, there's still an option for her to escape the abuse that you do.
Where?
That's what I'm saying.
She can just leave.
No, she can't. She has to commit adultery
That's not
to get out of divorce.
Go live in a parent
That's not
No.
divorcing.
No, the Mosaic law says the man. It's the man who has the right to divorce, not the woman.
Let's define what marriage is.
No, the wife doesn't have the right to get divorced. It's the man. He said it.
You have quoted.
He said it himself.
But that's the point.
I didn't say about separate places. I'm talking about divorce. I'm talking about divorce. Why are you talking about separation?
So chapter 5 is interesting.
Are you listening to yourself? I'm not talking about separation. I'm talking about divorce. I'm talking about divorce, not separation. You can still be married and separated,
Raihan
but
is
this is about
asking
divorce.
why they get divorced.
Okay, now listen to me very carefully. I'm not talking about. Yes. I'm not talking about the conduct of the husband. I'm not talking about that. So whether the husband is good or bad, whether the husband is good or bad, a bad husband or a good husband, if she wants to get divorced, can she get divorced without the need to commit adultery? Yes or no?
My opinion, clearly, yes.
No,
My
but it's
opinion is
not.
yes. You want to conflict. So the text is not saying if your husband beats you, then you can't escape that situation.
It does allow.
Well, you can
Why
escape.
didn't Jesus say a man doesn't have the right to be divorced unless he abuses his wife?
Doesn't mean that the
Why
man
doesn't Jesus say that?
does it mean that the wife cannot escape or has to remain
That's the
with
point. I'm talking about according to the law. Can she get divorced? Yes or no?
He's talking about
Can she get divorced? Yes or no? Can she get divorced? Yes or no?
She can escape
How?
divorce.
Give me the
She can
procedure.
escape the relationship.
How?
Basically, you are basing your argument, for example, in Matthew chapter 5.
Yes.
Matthew chapter 5 is not talking about the civil laws of something. It's talking about the values of the kingdom. is the Beatitudes. It's
No,
about...
it's about marriage. What are you on about?
No.
No, it's talking about marriage.
You are talking about according to the law of Moses. You are talking about to the law of Moses. But Jesus is saying all the time. You heard this,
You know it.
but I
Now, my
tell
point-
you
my-
this.
My point is this. My point is this. Listen to me very carefully. Yes, in 1 Peter, it says that the husband has to be righteous towards his wife. No problem. Granted, that's the case. But that's not a law. That's a conduct. But according to the law that Jesus prescribed, can the wife get divorced unless she commits adultery? Yes or
Can
no?
I answer you?
Yes.
Yes, because you are trying to separate conduct from law.
And that's what I
But the
did.
gospel, the values of the gospel don't separate conduct from law.
You get it?
Because we are that. We don't have like prescriptions. That's what you have, for example, in Islam. In Islam, beating us right now would be illegal. But if we do it
So
in
why
the
did
ring,
Jesus put
it would be
condition?
fantastic.
Why did he put condition?
If an imam comes and says, "As-salah wa la," it would be nice.
Why did Jesus put a condition then if it's not a law?
Remember,
No,
Matthew,
answer the question.
I'm trying to answer you. Matthew chapter 5. You said before,
Yes.
but that's according to the law of Moses. Chapter 5, from chapters 5 to 7, Jesus follows this narrative.
No, Jesus amends the Mosaic law. See, you're not reading.
No, he's saying
What
this.
did Jesus say? What did Jesus say in Matthew 5:17?
Remember, listen to this
What
phrase.
does Matthew say?
Listen to
No,
this phrase
you
because
don't-
that is
you don't complete
highly
the verse.
repeated
Go on.
in chapters 5, 6, and 7. You have heard that the law says this, but I tell you that.
Exactly, that's my point.
So, no,
Did
that's
Jesus
not your
say, I've
point.
abrogated the Mosaic
So,
law? Did he say that? Or did he amend the Mosaic law? What did Jesus say in the Matthew chapter 5?
He's giving a new law.
No, Jesus
He's
gives the
giving
answer.
a new law that is separated
Ah,
from the
new
civil
law. Did you hear that? He says,
why
yeah,
is
no.
Jesus
Remember what he said?
saying-
No. Remember what he said a few months ago? Oh, Christianity doesn't have these prescriptions like Islam, yet you say Jesus is giving a new law.
I'll tell you what
So
it
will you
is.
retract your statement?
But you are
Will
quoting
you
a
retract your statement?
chapter,
Will you
you're
retract your
quoting a
statement?
gospel
Will
where
you
Jesus
retract your
says
statement?
that.
Will you retract your statement, Leon?
So,
Will you retract your statement? You just said that Jesus gave us a new law, and yet a few months ago you said Christianity is not like Islam that has laws.
Did he give us a
But
new
clearly you said Jesus gave you a new law.
a new law that is not
So
based
it's a
on
law.
separation
So I'm
from
asking
law and
you.
conduct.
I'm asking you if the wife doesn't commit sexual immorality, can she get divorced from the husband? Yes or no?
She's not forced to live
I didn't ask
with
you that.
him.
I asked you if she just wants to end the marriage. It's not working. The husband's not giving me my right.
Well, you get
Can
married. it
she
doesn't work.
get divorced?
Work it out.
Can
Go to a
she?
counselor.
No wonder why. No wonder why.
counselor.
No wonder why many European women cheat because they experience from domestic violence. The only way they can get fired for divorce is to be adultery.
Use now you have to be a woman and can tell you that we come from Christian values and we have divorce.
Can she file for divorce unless she goes out and commit adultery? Yes or no?
Your question was this.
Okay. In Islam, do you want to hear about Islam? There was a case study of a woman. There was a case.
Wait, you know what it is?
He's not answering my question.
You want to
He's not
debate
answering my
imaginary man.
Be genuine. 'cause
Yeah, I know.
question.
He's not answering my question.
Yeah, but be genuine.
No, you should be genuine.
So
He's not answering my question. No, he's not answering.
we've been
No, he's
here
not.
for more than an hour.
Okay.
Did you hear him say it's a new law?
This guy's confused. He follows Islam. That's the.
Can a wife file? Does the wife have the right
Can you be your wife?
to file for divorce unless she commits adultery?
You asked me if a wife can escape an abusive husband.
Yes.
I told you the values. According
Yes.
to Peter, he says that the Bible doesn't address even domestic violence because Peter says that if a husband
Good.
speaks harshly to his wife, God won't listen to his prayers.
Good.
That spiritual
But does it
divorce
say
between God and the husband.
But does First Peter say if the husband is not being good to his wife, file for divorce? It doesn't say that. That's my point. Separate the conduct from the law. If you have he got the point. No. You have an abusive husband. No, you have an abusive husband. You have an abusive husband, right? He's not doing his duty, but yet he has the final say. He has the right. Whether he wants to divorce his wife or not.
Put
The
my
only
friend in
way that the
context.
wife can file for
Put my
divorce
friend in
is she
context.
commits adultery.
Okay.
Now how's that just?
Wait.
Why does she have to commit adultery to get
I
divorced?
just want to understand that.
Can you answer that?
I just want to understand that setup. That's the
Can you
thing that
you haven't answered my
Wait, let me
question.
I'm just trying to understand that setup.
Go
Right?
on.
You keep bringing up this abuse thing, right? 'Cause
Yes.
remember, this conversation is on the back of us saying, and you admitted this, that in Islam, husbands can beat their wives.
No, get out of here, man.
You-
Honestly,
Ah,
you're being
yeah,
insincere.
yeah,
You're being insincere.
yeah,
You're being
Run,
insincere.
run.
I've answered this question. No objection. And when I go to the Bible,
I'm
that's when you flip it. That's why the
I'm not running. Raihan,
It's okay.
Raihan, I'm not running.
You still haven't
I'm not accusing you. I'm not accusing you for asking me a question.
Can you answer the question?
I'm not running.
No. You have a big mouth. No. I want you to answer. I want you to answer. Okay.
Raihan, okay.
So why are you talking then?
Raihan,
Then keep it between us.
Raihan. For the sake of the camera as well, because remember, I've been entertaining your Muslim cameras here, the first Christian camera we have, so it's important that they have an update on what's going
It's
on.
very important. According to Gospel of Matthew,
you can beat your wife.
according to Gospel of Matthew chapter
In
5,
Islam, you can
do you want me
beat your wife. That's very
to address the Christian
Raihan,
audience?
I'm trying to be nice.
According to the Gospel of
I'm
yeah, but you
fair.
told me. According to the Gospel of Matthew chapter 5, Jesus says that a husband, a man does not. See why you talking over me? A man does. Oh, no. See why he's taking away.
He's got a mic though.
I'm going to give you the context for divorce according to the Gospel of Matthew. First of all, the Gospel of Matthew was written by the same author who wrote chapter 5 and who wrote chapter 19. Yeah, it was good. Your question was valid. I'm not...
Over it. About woman.
Take care, yeah?
About woman, yeah? You know what difference
yeah, and it's true. Sorry, I forgot 1 Corinthians that says that if you want to live in peace. Yeah. But the point is, Jesus doesn't address particular points. The context is, at that time there were 2 schools of theology in regards to divorce. The school of Gamaliel and the school of Hamai. One said that a husband could divorce his wife even if she wasn't an expert in cooking, I don't know, biscuits or whatever. A husband could go to the rabbi or to the Sanhedrin and say, my wife is rubbish at cooking lentils, and he was allowed to divorce her. That's the point. Jesus is saying the only reasonable ground for divorce or justification for divorce is adultery. But he's not saying that then if a husband beats his wife, then there's no way to escape that situation.
Yeah.
So he's talking about concepts, ethics, moral. Well, the Bible says, addresses even kind of verbal domestic violence. So I don't know how to make this term, but that's all. It's just like that guy wanted us to say what is not written. Anyway, that's all. You did a good job.
You too, man. A very good job.
Israelites will return to take down Islam.